What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel, check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about in this episode, uh, Running Back Podcast was discussing Giannis possibly going to the Celtics, right? And in order for the Celtics to get Giannis, they would have to trade either Tatum or Brown, right? And so this is not the first time that the topic came up, either getting rid of Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, right? And in my opinion, I just think it would be a mistake. You and a lot of these GMs in the NBA make this mistake thinking that you can just assemble talent and it's going to be a great fit. Like Giannis is a very talented, he's a very talented ball player, but there's no guarantee that he will fit in with that chemistry with with the Celtics. Like if say for instance, if you got rid of Brown and you put Giannis and you teamed him up with Jason Tatum, there's no guarantee that they would fit and they would work together. Same thing, like if you got rid of Tatum and put Giannis with Brown, you know, there's no guarantee. And so once you have something, in my opinion, that's not broke, then don't fix it. Thinking that if you bring in a Giannis, who's like I said, a great basketball player, but I don't think, in my opinion, I don't know if he really fits with either one of these guys at the Celtics. I think, and the way Milwaukee was structured when Milwaukee won that championship, I think they won it back in 2021. I think it was 2021 when they had Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis. What's the Bobby Portis, right? They had chemistry on that team. They had talent, they had chemistry, and they had great leadership from a point guard. And they was able to win it. And they started tinkering with it, and all of that went away. And the Celtics have been, tinkering with the notion of getting rid of these two guys, but because they having success on the court, they kind of held off. But I believe that in my opinion, it'll be a mistake. It'll be a big gamble if you get rid of either Tatum or Brown in the Celtics. And I don't care who you bring in, you just got to make sure that chemistry is not disturbed. And right now, I think they have a great chemistry. So now, this conversation was being discussed on, like I said, the Running Back Podcast, and I'm gonna let the audio play, and I'm gonna come back and give my input.
Like today, when Sam Amick's back on the show, right after Doc Rivers was on the show, who had a lot to say about a lot, and a lot of Giannis in there. Oh, are we taking our glasses off? That's how important and serious this is.
We're switching. I can't see.
Oh my God! Okay. I was like,
we're switching. Switching glasses. Yeah. Sorry.
By the way, did you hear Doc on especially all things Giannis?
I heard most of the interview. I was going to tell you guys, man, you guys have a great track record here. Because if I end up having to wait for a couple minutes, first time is Baron Davis with that epic interview that he had.
That's great.
And then we got Doc. Like you guys are digging in with a guy who was front and center right now. But I heard most of it. That was great.
Some of it was, it was pretty funny, and some of it was interesting. And then you had the report that perhaps maybe there's a world in which the Celtics and Giannis join forces, but in doing that, you'd have to give up one of the Jays, a Brown or a Tatum. How realistic is this?
It's funny. Michelle, you got good instincts. Like I wrote that thing, and listen, we pick and choose when you decide to share stuff that you've heard, and that's a tricky one because, like, how realistic is it? Well, right now they're feeling great about what they're doing. Historically, they are a group that you could argue they pursue every superstar who's available. That's just kind of how their front office is wired, with Brad Stevens leading the way. And then so you look at it and go, wait a minute, they're winning games. Why would they even consider this? Well, like that's just the league. And so I think it's a matter of how do the playoffs go? Because you're obviously correct that one of the Jays would have to go. And I think even some of this interest in the past has been born out of the fact like they didn't know that Jaylen Brown was gonna level up like he has and have the kind of year that he has. So we got to see how the postseason goes. If they're raising the trophy again, then obviously this.
See, the thing about Jaylen Brown is Jaylen Brown has performed ever since he's been in the league. Like they never questioned. They they question Jaylen Brown, but I think they question Jaylen Brown unnecessarily. Tatum there's been times where Tatum didn't show up big in big games, but never Brown, right? And I've had Brown been the kind of player that didn't show up, I think they would have made a move sooner, like years ago, if they'd had, like, if that was Brown, in my opinion, if that was Brown who didn't show up in big games, they would, for some reason, seem like they would have got rid of Brown before they got Tatum. They give Tatum gave him more leeway than they did Brown. Brown, I'm not even surprised that Brown had the kind of season he had this past season, because he just come out and do what he do. And so, if in the Celtics, in my opinion, if they get rid of Brown, that'll just be a big mistake.
Noise, however much noise there is going to completely go away. If they get bounced in the second round, then like any other team in that spot, they're going to look at the landscape.
Man, can you imagine if they win the championship after all that turnover and everything they've been through? That would be insane, Sam. But I want to ask you about the 65 game rule thing that everyone is kind of up in arms about. Is right now Cade, Luka, and Devin Booker, they're all ineligible for the postseason awards. Do you think there's a chance that Adam Silver kind of makes this right and makes an exception for Luka or any of these other guys who just got unlucky with these freak injuries, or is this the rule and we're sticking to it?
I mean, Chandler, so far, Adam's tone has been like borderline defiant. Like the Players Union puts out the statement about Cade and how it's not right that he's going to miss out here. Adam Silver, and that statement was intentionally timed because the union knew that Adam was doing media the next day. So then Adam at Board of Governors, when he gets asked about it, and him, he's usually pretty diplomatic, but I thought his answer was pretty on the nose and pretty direct, where he just flat out said, I'm paraphrasing, but one player does not justify changing the rule. Now, when he said that, obviously for me, it didn't land real well. It's like, shoot, Adam, like we're talking about potentially a bunch of players. So I don't know if his view has evolved. I do think we could see individual exceptions being made. Luka in particular is a pretty unique and interesting one when you talk about his choice to go be there for the birth of his child and to miss 2 games and the optics of the NBA saying, man, this is what you get for being a good dad, like no MVP candidacy for you. They could make an exception there, but bigger picture, at least for now, I think they're sticking to their guns when it comes to the 65 game rule.
Now, when it comes to the 65 game rule, I agree. The rule is the rule. Because the whole point of the 65 game rule is to get everybody to play, to try to get these guys to play in a full season, and once you get these guys playing a full season, it's not really about awards, individual accolades and stats and stuff like that. So if you don't win an MVP because you missed a certain amount of games, it won't really matter if you chasing rings. If you chasing rings, those type of individual accolades eventually are going to come. So, you can't be rewarding people for not being at work, even if they have good intentions, or they were legitimately hurt or legitimately sick, you still don't reward people for work that they didn't do. So I like the fact that Adam Silver is standing on, if you don't have a qualified candidate, it's not like you have to pick somebody every year. If all the best basketball players in the league just so happen to play 60 games, then then they all of them are disqualified, in my opinion. So I'm cool with that.
And by the way, we had Mannix on the show earlier this week. He kind of gave us a little sneak peek because he has a vote just like you do. Have you made your decision on MVP Rookie of the Year, or is the last 2 games matter at all?
I mean, it's not about the last 2 games matter. I mean, first of all, whatever Mannix does, I'll do the opposite. That's my general rule, But like, it's, Rookie of the Year, I'm definitely leaning towards Khan. I mean, Cooper's, furious finish was incredible, but leaning pretty heavily towards Khan on rookie. MVP, I gotta dig in deeper over the weekend. It's not about the last 2 games. It's kind of just about you do this combination of trying to look at the numbers and get deep on that front, to talk to people around the league who you respect, talk to people in our industry. And you're always doing that, but there's kind of a final chapter where you just want to feel good about the choice that you make. I will say, if I end up picking Shea, the part that I like is that, for all the conversation around him in terms of free throw merchant and this and that, I love the fact that, like, he has been so great that it has, in my opinion, like it's gone past all that. Like, he has been so dynamic, so entertaining. These big games against other MVP candidates, other than Wemby, that's the one guy who got him most of the time. Shea has been showing out. The game against Denver where he's hitting 2-game winners basically. So looking at Shea hard, but Wemby and Joker both have great cases. So I got to make a final call here.
Yeah, I like Shea right now. Shea is my pick for MVP, but Wemby is definitely in the conversation. So it would be between those two, Shea and Wemby. But I will go with Shea. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.